Hello, everyone. My name is Rose Horowitz. I'm a Pulitzer-nominated journalist and the founder of Women to Follow. It's the first anniversary of my Women to Follow show. And to celebrate, I have a great show planned with three incredible entrepreneurs, Jennifer Navarrete, Gia Elhansen, and Indra Bartona. And I will be asking them about the secret sauce for succeeding in social media, podcasts, and the blockchain community, as well as film, TV production. All of them are innovators. I can't wait to hear what they say. I'll just say a little bit about Women to Follow and this past year. I've had the honor to speak with 34 women who have been prominent business leaders, journalists, authors, photographers, doctors, nurses, and advocates. One judge, Ginger, one is a judge. I don't know if she's watching, but it was my great honor to interview Judge Ginger Lerner Wren, and she pioneered the nation's first mental health court. I've covered topics ranging from travel photography to the role of women in Ukraine. When I started the show, I thought we were coming out of the pandemic, and I thought maybe we'd be traveling soon. And I had somebody I've known a long time on Twitter, Kirsten Alana, who is a travel photographer and blogger, on the show. And at that point, this was in a year ago in the summer, she was saying she's just going to travel in state. She wouldn't travel overseas yet. But I can happily report, that she is traveling in Czechoslovakia as we speak. She's posting about it. And I've always loved following the news. So when we didn't know for certain that the Roe versus Wade would be overturned, I started preparing, and I did a show with two doctors who talked about women's birth control and privacy and what could happen with that. And I have to say that as a woman, I am very dismayed by what we're seeing with the Supreme Court ruling, and that we've gone back 50 years for where we should be in the human right to decide. And I also covered. I was inspired but frightened by what was happening when Russia invaded the Ukraine. And I interviewed a journalist in Ukraine who has a 6-year-old and talked about what her 6-year-old was doing and how she left Kyiv. And two women who host a podcast called Kremlin Files. So I learned a lot about Russian propaganda and what it's like, the important role of women in Ukraine. Because we were, the reason I started a Women to Follow Ukraine list, because when I was watching the news, I was seeing all men talking about international and security affairs. And just a quick intro, but how I started Women to Follow. I was reading a story about gender imbalance that Gender Avenger, the group nonprofit, had put out. And I just said, this is crazy. Let's get this party started. I'm going to name 3 women to follow. And I named them. Here's the first tweet that was in July of 2018 that started this whole movement. And what happened, people who I tagged, were sharing. My Twitter feed was exploding. And a friend of mine started a Women to Follow Twitter list. And it was just great because, the idea of naming women is a positive thing, that we want to lift up women, we want to name them. And while we may know the name of Michelle Obama and Oprah, there's so many women in different fields that should be recognized and saluted. And following that, I wrote some Twitter profiles. And then when the pandemic hit, I started working with Sri Srinivasan, who is now teaching at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, and Neil Parekh and Paula Kiger of a startup called Digimentors. And I was producing a daily COVID show with Sri. So we had 2 producers, a host, and we booked, of our 456 guests, something like 56% were women. So we achieved some parity, and that was our goal. And we covered everything from actors, out of work on Broadway to what doctors and nurses were saying in Italy when COVID first hit there. And then people started saying, well, I also worked on a medical show called She's on Call, and people started saying, well, why don't you do your own show? So I did. I didn't want to do it without my good friend, Stefan Kaplan, who is behind the scenes. And if he wants to come out and say hello, where are you? There you are.
Hi, Rose. Happy Women to Follow anniversary.
Thank you. It's been a ride. I think, was it our first show that you lost power? But Stefan, intrepid.
I think it was. I ran to the library.
That's right.
I have to tell you, Rose, what you've done. It's been an honor working with you, not only just because we're great friends, but because we're great colleagues. And I have so much respect for what you've done. And I'll simply say, coming from the son of a trailblazer herself, my mom, as you know, who was one of the first women police officers on the NYPD to patrol with the men in 1973. I've been around women who are trailblazers and who have worked really hard to further women's rights and do a lot for the women's movement. So what you've done on social media is equally as important, and you continue to do so. So being behind the scenes for you has been a pleasure and an honor. So thank you.
Stefan. Stefan has been always creative, flexible, loyal, it's always been fun to chat with him and the guests after the show.
I'm going to play a little clip, hello and a greetings and a congratulations from Digimentors. How's that?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Rose, congratulations on the 1-year anniversary of your live stream show, Women to Follow. You have done a great job of showcasing business leaders, journalists, authors, photographers, and advocates. I can see that you applied a lot of the best practices you learned on Digimentors produced shows such as She's on Call and Sri's COVID show. Brava. I remember when you first started tweeting using the hashtag Women to Follow 4 years ago. It was an honor and a privilege to have you as a guest on Sri's Sunday New York Times read-along and give more visibility to your campaign. Watching you continue to put the focus on women and seeing the growth of the Women to Follow Twitter list curated by you and Stacey Kratz has been great. On behalf of your colleagues at Digimentors, here's to continued success with Women to Follow.
Thank you. That was so nice. And I did learn so much being on the Digimentors team. I'm still on the team. And Neil, that was great. And you did call me up. I think I did the hashtag July 4th. It went out. The tweet went out, and Neil called me up and said, "Are you sure? Is this really you? Like, did you find this, or is this?" I said, "No. This is me. There's nothing really out there like it." So I was a guest on the Sunday New York Times read along, which is an honor. And I see we have some comments. Let's see. A terrific happy anniversary from Ann Arriaga. Somebody watching from Springfield, congratulations on your 1-year anniversary of your show, Women to Follow. Thank you. And Neil, congratulations on the 1-year anniversary. So I really appreciate everybody supporting me. And I will ask everybody, you can join us on Facebook, on Twitter at my handle, Rose Horowitz 31. On LinkedIn and on my YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Any comments, put them in the chats. You can do that on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and Facebook. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce our guests, who all three of whom are great entrepreneurs. Jennifer Navarrete is an award-winning social media professional who has 16 years of experience in podcasting, and she's going to tell us about the National Podcast Post Month, which is coming up. Jennifer lives in San Antonio. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, Rose. Congratulations. What an exciting show. What an amazing milestone. Kudos.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So Jennifer will also hear about her involvement in Web3 and the blockchain. She's done in January, she launched a series on the blockchain, 30 parts. And I said, I don't know if I have time, she was teaching about the blockchain. I don't know if I have time for this, but she kept it, 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And I've learned so much. So thank you, Jennifer, for being here. And I'd like to introduce, thanks, Jennifer. Gia El Hassan. Hi, Gia.
Hello. Hey, ladies. Congratulations, Rose. Happy birthday to Women to Follow. This has been a phenomenal show. 23 episodes of highlighting amazing women to follow. This is an achievement in itself. Thank you so much for being a trailblazer yourself.
Thank you, Gia. Let me tell you a little about Gia. She's an online marketing and business specialist and has her own company and a social media content expert. And she also is a clinical dietitian and holds a master's of business administration. And she has just started a great thing called Decoding with Gia. And it's a space on Twitter. And I've been in a few of them, and they so intellectual. I told her last night, they're so intellectually stimulating. It's like I'm in a seminar, so it's on education, on social media. So thank you for being here, Gia. And then Indra is joining us, Indra Bartona. Hi, Indra.
Hey, Rose. Hey, ladies. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate in happy 1 year anniversary. Yay. It's exciting to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Indra. Indra is Indra is from Australia and grew up in Australia. And she is a TV, and I think, let's see her credits, because I found you in IMDb, and best known for Architects of Crime in 2016, The Setup in 2010, and The Hard Knock. And she's also been an actress, a model, and a TV host. She now lives in Los Angeles. She's also a meditation coach, video producer, and she's the creator of the Positivity Vibe Tribe, which is a community on Twitter Spaces. You can find everyone. I'll give you quickly. Jennifer Navarrete is under on Twitter at ePodcaster. She has a website also. Gia is under Gia _ El Hassan, and Indra is at Indra Bartona. So that would be way to find them and find out everything they're doing. So let's start with some questions. Thank you. Neil is saying, I meant everything I said in the tribute video. Very kind. Very nice, Neil. Thank you. Jennifer, so tell me about a little bit about your career in podcasting and the National Podcast Post Month.
Sure. I'm going down memory lane now. In 2005, I heard about this thing called podcasting. And when I understood what it meant I could record something, put it up on the web, and no one could stop me. I was like, sign me up. Let's go. Let's make this thing happen. And that began my love affair of podcasting. And so I've been doing podcasting since 2005. And obviously it's grown, it's changed, it's shifted. It's now a multi-billion-dollar industry where before it was not. And it's nice to have been part of that journey, watching something grow from nothing into something and still have that same energy and passion as I did when I first heard about it all those years ago.
Tell us what what's the hashtag? NATP. Tell us about
NAPodPomo. NAPodPomo stands for National Podcast Post Month. In 2007, I heard about this thing called NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writers Month. And you write 50,000 words in the month of November. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm never going to write 50,000 words. And then I heard about the bloggers doing NaBloPoMo, which was write 30 blog posts in 30 days. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
There's also a poetry one. I've done that.
And write the poetry, right. So there was all these things coming up and I was like, I'm going to go join the podcasting one. And I went and searched high and low. And there was nothing to be found. And I couldn't believe it that even the video people had something and podcasters didn't. So 3 days before November 1st in 2007, I'm like, I'm making this. So NaPodPoMo was born. I didn't know if anybody was going to join me. But when it was all said and done in that very first year, 50 podcasters did indeed join and make an attempt at doing 30 podcast episodes in 30 days.
That's awesome. And how many of those are still doing it 15 years later, would you think?
People come and go. I actually had a guy who was there in year one. He said, I'm going to have to revisit this because it's a 15-year anniversary coming up. He said, so you'll see me again this year. And I'm like, fantastic.
Well, awesome. Great achievement. And, I think I started listening to podcasts, I guess, a few years ago, and I would listen to them in the car often as I was driving my kids everywhere. A lot of times the women that I meet on my show, they often are have a podcast, and that's sort of how I've discovered a lot of podcasts. So great work, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Gia, tell us about your degree in science as a dietitian who's now gone into business. Tell us about how was your, I'm hearing echo. Anyway, Stefan, tell me if it's bad, and we'll figure it out. So tell us how your work as a dietitian has informed or influenced how you work as a marketer and digital specialist.
All right. So no one actually asked me this before, so thank you for asking. All right, so one of the things that kind of gave me an advantage when I moved to my MBA and starting my agency, my marketing agency, is that when you're a scientist, you have a very analytical mindset. You're very analytical, and also based on research. As scientists, we do a lot of research. So when I moved to marketing and starting my agency, that kind of helped me understand also the psyche behind purchase behavior and consumer behavior, and also reading marketing metrics better and analyzing it faster than my peers who were with me in the MBA. So it kind of gave me an advantage being in two industries, and I took those skills and I used them. I kind of cross-pollinated between the skills, and I have this advantage of marketing. So when I saw that, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite tremendously, because as a scientist, we work with people, we work with different things, we experiment all the time. Marketing is the same way. It's just where instead of having an experiment at the end of the day, or a medicine or something, we come up with that. Now we have a product and a service. So I have to do this. It's the same process. So I think it kind of gave me an advantage of really excelling at marketing and enjoying it as well. So I didn't have to move so far from science.
That's great. That's great. Indra, tell us how you got started with the Positivity Vibe Tribe, and what you hope to achieve with that. Tell us what that means.
Okay, so Rose, what happened was when life changed in the world for all of us, and the virus arrived, there was a time where I was reflecting on many things that I had grown up with, as in meditation, from the age of 5, and also researching self-growth, reading a lot of books from the age of 12. And it's always been a lifelong passion of mine. And I was always trying to figure out how I could be of service to others. And that was basically the formation and the idea of the Positivity Vibe Tribe, a global community.
And, I was telling you that there was a headline in the New York Times, positivity is overrated or something. But, what do you mean by positivity, and what do you hope people get out of it? Is it saying, don't think about your troubles or, turn away from them. Like, really, what do you mean when you talk about positivity?
When I talk about positivity, what I feel is that in life, we're always going to have challenges, issues, struggles, and this is just part of our life. And I feel like if we can build tools in the framework of positivity and all the topics that I cover in the Positivity Vibe Tribe, we can actually fuel ourselves and be more resilient when things do happen. We can ride those waves so much more effective. And that's what it's really about for me. It's that things are going to happen because we're living life. But why not be prepared? Why not be able to conquer each issue, each struggle, and be more resilient and not have to always start from scratch?
So I think you began this by posting videos. Am I right? On YouTube.
Correct. I started my YouTube channel last year in June. And prior to that, I had all that time. I had a year in the planning. I had written over 30 shows before we even started filming with the team.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I was very prepared. I had researched and created a whole file of the tweets I was going to share and so much other content and visuals. So it was a lot in the plan behind the scenes, bringing this dream to life.
Okay, that's really interesting. So you had your content and you were finding a way to share it, and that's great. Go back to you, Jennifer. Jennifer, tell us about your efforts to demystify the blockchain. Tell us, just as best you can, what that is, and what is Web3, and why that's important for writers and creators, artists, entrepreneurs.
So when I heard about the blockchain, very similar to how when I heard about podcasting, I was like, what is that? And I like to experiment a lot. So I was experimenting, trying to understand what it was. And once I understood that the blockchain, or Web3, as a creator specifically, because when you hear Web3 and you hear blockchain, it can be many, many things. But for me, as a creator, as a content creator, I'm looking at it in that very narrow focused. If you're someone who likes to blog, take photos, share photos, do video, live stream, do the stuff of social. If you like to tweet, if you like to Facebook, if you like to Twitch, if you like to YouTube, if you like to Instagram, if you like to do those things, you can also do those things on the blockchain. But the blockchain can be it's got a lot of new terminology and it's got a lot of new behaviors. And so it feels intimidating. And what I feel like I'm doing when I'm demystifying the blockchain is that I am simplifying the onboarding process for others, or at least their consideration of it. Because when I say it's another destination for your content, that's what I mean. The same stuff you're writing, what you're doing now, just a new place to put it. And because it's a new place to put it, because it's the blockchain and because it's centralized, there's an ownership aspect, and there's also the opportunity to earn. And, when we talk about being a creator, the second thing folks say is, how can I monetize that? Monetization is extremely possible. I should say micro monetization is extremely possible on the blockchain with the same stuff that you're doing right now. And that's, I think, the demystification part is really just simplifying it so that the understanding, hopefully, it lowers the barrier to entry.
Okay. Tell us an example. I think you in our phone call, you said that you wrote something about bad coffee. So tell us how that happened.
So I did last summer. I did an A/B split test, and I did it with bread. And I just did 2 posts, 2 photos of I was baking bread, and I found out that on Twitter, where I had over 5,000 followers, there was only 3 likes. And on the blockchain, where I was new and it only had 9 followers, there was 11 upvotes, which is similar to likes, but it wound up giving me 37 cents. So that A/B split test really showed me 37 cents isn't anything isn't going to pay a mortgage, but it's more like putting money into a piggy bank, as good friend Graciela Moore kind of told me one day when I was talking to her about this. So today I had drank day-old coffee because I woke up really early, and the coffee from yesterday was actually pretty good. And I'm like, I hate to throw this away. It was like really good. What can I do? So I poured it in a thing. I heated up some water, added water, and then drank it. And then I thought, it's actually pretty good. So I thought, I'm going to write a post about that on the blockchain. And I just thought, who's going to care? But whatever. I went back in the afternoon and the upvote value was like at $14.32 for a post about day old coffee. And that's the kind of stuff that can happen on the blockchain. Random and exciting and fun.
Wow.
That's great. That's great. So those $14 can start adding up every day, and multiple posts and ways. You have a walk talk challenge, right? So every time you walk with someone, they're getting.
I interview women entrepreneurs, and I walk, and they walk, and I interview them on Twitter Spaces, and then I take that and turn it into a podcast, and I take that podcast and I put it on the blockchain. And if they are also on the blockchain, I can make them a beneficiary, or they can also earn rewards on that. So everyone can win.
Great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And Gia, you've recently restarted something called Decoding with Gia. So tell us what that's about.
Okay, so Decoded with Gia was a show that started because I needed something. So when social audio started, with social audio, I started in the pandemic, and everyone was kind of adopting it with Clubhouse first. So everyone was happy about it. And then I saw the statistics. I was very excited with Clubhouse. But the thing is, with Clubhouse, I didn't have my platform to speak. It was in the beginnings of social audio in the Clubhouse, it was already dominated by big names, celebrities, big investors. So we didn't have space for us, the little entrepreneurs. And it was very hard to come into a space with 3,000 people, 300, 400 to come up to stage, and you just didn't have a chance.
I was in a space once with Gary Vee, and it was incredible. The amount of people. Exactly. And he couldn't speak. He was interviewing a guest, but.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't speak. So then, but I enjoyed it. And I realized with the social audio, because the isolation, the lockdowns for COVID kind of heightened our isolation and our separation. And my husband was stuck out of the country. So it was just me and the kids. We couldn't see our friends. We couldn't do anything. So social audio kind of helped me connect with more entrepreneurs, with more people. And then Twitter Spaces launched. And we were very excited because that's where my people are, on Twitter. So very happy. I immediately jumped in, and that's how I met you, wonderful ladies, through Twitter Spaces.
Yes.
So then we exactly. So we met, and we had amazing relationships and collaborations. And then I wanted to start my show, and I had no idea what to talk about. I do a lot of things. I am passionate about so many things. So then I was looking for spaces on how to do a space, how to run a space, what to talk about. So as a market in my agency, I'm always trying to find new ways to help my clients get more reach, sell more products, etc. So then I was like, I told my clients, why don't you just jump to social audio? Just try it. It will cut down your advertising costs by thousands. So then they're like, no, but I don't know. Like, I have an NLP coach, I remember, and I had someone from New York. She does jewelry for celebrities. And so they were like, I sell jewelry. I do jewelry for Hollywood. What am I going to say in a space? And then it got me thinking, what if I help these people? Because I didn't know either. It was new, it was fresh. So then I was like, okay, what if I bring in someone from each industry, success that they have established a good platform on Twitter Spaces or social audio somewhere else, and then they can tell us how they did it. So that's when I started curating my guests. So I brought Jennifer for ePodcaster, and you're definitely coming, Rose, for the next show, and Indra as well for positivity. I had scientists, I had marketing experts, I had multimedia experts on how to even use devices or how to use audio, how to sit, how to talk, how to make sure you're heard well. So then it just kind of exploded from there. It just went on, because that's when I realized people needed this. Because a lot of them, you get this question, I want to start social audio. I want to start a Clubhouse room or Twitter space. I don't know what to say. So that's where Decoded with Gia started, is that I'm just providing information access, technology access to everyone who just doesn't know where to start from, doesn't know what to say. So a platform, basically. So that's the story of Decoded with Gia.
Okay, well, you're doing great. Your space last night was very full, and some big names there. and she is great at moderating discussion. So, Indra, tell me, when we've spoken, tell us a little about, because I don't know about this so much from Twitter Spaces, but tell us how you got started in TV and film production, being an actress, being a model. Tell us.
Okay, so if I backtrack to when I started modeling, I was actually 5 years of age. I started winning those little beauty contest pageants, and there was actually a modeling coach who approached my mum and asked her if maybe I could take some courses. And then it became, kind of a fun thing to kind of strut up and down the catwalk, right? And I did that. And, I was 16 for a long time, let's just say. The modeling agency said to my mum, I think I was in university, which is the same thing as college, as what you say here, as what you call it. And I think I was around 20. And, she kind of leaned in and said, Indra's been 16 for quite a long time. and I thought, maybe I should just gracefully retire from the catwalk at this point.
Retire at 20.
Right. And then I was just really blessed because even up until this day, I still do modeling shoots, photographic work. So I'm just behind the camera now, and that's really fun too. So that's how that got started. And the journey of how I started to produce, well, actually, I was a singer-songwriter while I had my corporate job. I just got my first corporate job. And I actually had 8 years of vocal training as a professional singer. I put down my first 3 tracks in the Sony studios in Sydney, Australia, on my demo. And so anyway, I was performing, singing with my dancers. They were performing in the background and everything else. And, it was just a lot of fun.
MTV action?
On TV. This was on TV.
Yeah, on TV.
It was on an arts gallery. It was called The Gallery. It was an art show on cable. And afterwards, the producer approached me and said, would you be interested in learning how to produce your own, just music segment? And I said, of course, I would love that. Music is a passion. And so that happened. And then before I knew it, little did I know that was going to lead to her tapping me on the shoulder another day saying, how would you like me to train you to be a producer, and you can learn everything about the studio and how to produce your own show? And basically after that, the rest is history. I put my show together. I started a show, which was my own. I produced and hosted, called Music Pump Unsigned. And many years later, when I got to Los Angeles here, I actually created it. So it is hosted on YouTube, an LA version that was really fun.
Great story. Great story. I'll just ask you quickly, because I know a little, but how did you get familiar with the entertainment world? And also your mother, tell us the story of when you were 5, and not only were you, maybe chosen to model and getting to see your mother, who had was a guest on a lot of cooking shows and had, it sounds like she did some cooking shows herself. So that's really interesting to me. And what did your mother do in the mornings? Tell us.
Okay. So this all sort of comes together, but basically every morning my mum would be meditating, and I was at 5 years of age. I really didn't know what was going on, but I was actually learning how to meditate. And so I would emulate my mum sitting in lotus pose. And, very quickly she started to see that I was very interested in sitting alone in solitude and learning this skill. So she started to teach me how to breathe and all the different types of breathing and the different types of meditation. And it became a beautiful thing every morning that my mother and I did. And I don't know where my sister was, but she wasn't there. I think she was sleeping because, this was very, very early in the morning. And then my mum is a nutritionist, and she's always been involved in, she's written for the Australian Women's Weekly. She's taught many and lectured many cooking classes, vegetarian, Indian, all sorts of things. So at the age of 5, I, started off attending some of these guest interviews that she would have on various different television stations. And of course, when she would go to hair and makeup, I had to get the same as well. I had to have hair and makeup, of course, because I was 5. And if I was going to be sitting next to her on camera, I needed to be, decked out as well. So I had my outfits and I had my hair and makeup done. And I really got inspired on so many levels today from my mother.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you for sharing all that, Gia. Indra. Oh my God. Sorry. And I guess what I wanted to ask Gia, what did you think you wanted to be when you were growing up? When you were 10, what did you want to be?
A doctor, always. I always wanted to be a doctor, but I also realized that I was quite passionate about a lot of different things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I always leaned towards being a doctor and a scientist. And don't tell anyone, but I always wanted to be a CSI investigator. I was watching. I was watching too much, and it was very interesting. I think it was the season where the head of the CSI department was a scientist, and he was very passionate about science, and he always showed like different snippets from the episode. He showed how they found out the criminal through the science reaction or the science experiment. So it was always linked back to science. So I'm very passionate about science and human psychology as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it started, and also one of the things that kind of drives this want is that I always want to help people all the time. I always jump in as soon as it's something my husband says all the time, is like, you're gonna jump into someone one day and you're gonna get hurt somehow. But it's just something that I'm very passionate about. I love helping people a lot, and science and medical school gave me access to that as well. Mm-hmm. Helping people just leaving the hospital. When someone left the hospital under my care, that was satisfying for me. That was fulfilling for me. Is that I helped someone somehow. So that mindset kind of translates in everything else I do. So even if it was real estate, I'm in real estate as well. So even if it's in real estate, it's helping the families move in, or like I'm always just trying to do something extra to help someone, and that's where science and came in.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Gia. Jennifer, how about you? Did you always want to be a producer?
When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And when I was 18, I worked as a veterinary technician at a veterinary hospital, and I discovered, no, I did not want to do that at all. And I thought that was so liberating, because if I hadn't even, made an attempt to pursue at least industry as a potential career to learn, I may have always been like, I always wanted to do this and I never did it. But not that I was a vet, but working in that industry, I realized not my cup of tea. And I felt like every single thing that I've done has been something that I'm like, even with podcasting, what is that thing? What does it do? I can do it. Let's do it. And then once I do it, I'm like, hey, have you heard this cool thing? I model my Learn, Share, Grow off of Social Media Club. That was when I heard that term, they used it. That was their slogan, Learn, Share, Grow. And I was like, that's my whole life. As soon as I learn something, I am sharing what I have learned so that we can all grow together. And that still applies to this day. I'm doing experiments all the time. Like Web3 was an experiment. Like, okay, let's try this thing, see what's going to happen. And now my whole business has shifted.
Set a goal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You set a goal each month to try something new, don't you?
Yep. every month, because how can we learn if we're not trying? And the nice thing about an experiment is that if the experiment succeeds or fails, it is not necessarily that I failed or even that I succeeded. It was really just that the experiment either worked or it didn't, and maybe it needed to be tweaked, or maybe it needed to be adjusted, or maybe it's just not for me, and that's totally okay. And I hope that folks really take away from this that it's okay to experiment. Like, feel like you can experiment and do it in public. I experiment in public all the time. I tell folks, hey, I'm trying this new thing here. Will it blend? Will it work? No idea. Join me for the adventure. And in that way, I think it frees people from feeling like they have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to try and be willing to fail and be willing to learn.
Thank you. So I, started this hashtag with asking women their 3 women to follow. And I do that on my shows. So Jennifer, I'll start with you and ask you, who are your 3 women to follow?
So this was a really tough one because my first thought when you asked me that was my mom, my sister, and my aunts, who were like second moms to me. But I realized that obviously it's better if we pick folks that others can actually share, can actually connect with and learn from. So when it comes to podcast editing, Steph Fuccio, who is at Steph Fuccio, she does the global podcast editors. She's dynamic. She lives in Europe. She's an expat, and she does a lot of things. She lived in a lot of countries since I've known her. She was actually my very first Walk Talk Challenge woman entrepreneur that I interviewed a few years back. So she's someone that if you're wanting to kind of get a sense of experimentation, and if you're someone who's interested in podcast editing, take a look at her global podcast editors. I'll also say that the next woman to follow would be Tracy York, who is a powerful Web3 woman that I am just learning so much from. She's she's running the Hive chat, which I have now joined as part of the team. But Hive chat allows people who are on the Hive blockchain to get together and participate on Twitter on chats. But she's an amazing, very welcoming. The first time I ever engaged with her on the blockchain, she was like, yeah, this is great. Come on, let me introduce you to some folks. And I was like, well, okay. So she was very welcoming, and the blockchain is like that. And then the third person would be Luria Petrucci, who runs Livestreamer Pros. Now, when I first met Luria, she was known as her alter ego, Callie Lewis, and was one of the very first video podcasters way back in those early days. And she teaches folks how to live stream, and she does a show. And so she's very dynamic, and she does something called LIDA, Live Every Day April, and Live Every Day August, where she does a month-long challenge, giving folks the tools and challenging them to learn how to be comfortable and have confidence on camera. And so I salute her for just being a pioneer and for sticking to it and for just really growing her industry.
These are really great, Jennifer. And, you're giving us these women in different fields means I can, get started. I think a few of them I follow probably through you, but, getting started if you're interested in a podcast, you're interested in the Web3. So Gia, who do you have for us? Who do you name?
Okay. So again, just like Jennifer, it was my predicament. Women to follow. I'm surrounded by a lot of great women, so it's very hard to kind of choose from because they all helped shape the Gia today. And one of them is actually you, Rose, and Jennifer. And then I thought of my mom and my mother-in-law. I have an amazing mother-in-law as well, so they shaped my life too. But then when it comes to social media, the ones that are here who have impacted me as an entrepreneur is one of them is Nicole Walters, and she's a CEO of Inherit Learning, and she hosts a TV show. She's the boss. She advocates for women entrepreneurs specifically, and she has amazing stories. She's very transparent about being a parent entrepreneur as well. So I learn a lot from her videos, and she's just very authentic. That's the thing I like about her. It's not filtered. She says it as it is, and she's always advocating for women as well. And the next one I have is AOC. We all know AOC, and I'm a human rights activist. So the way Alexandria kind of fights for the causes for New York, for the people of the minorities, and the way she does it, and she will not let anyone stand on her way, and she will fight for the people. So this is where my human rights activist, this is one of the best examples that I follow as well. And also I also have the next one will be Tabitha. I'm Tabitha Brown. the world's favorite mom. I found Tabitha Brown in the pandemic. I was at an all-time low, and then I think I was scrolling something, and then her videos always start, "How are you doing there today?" Like she speaks to you, and she came through the screen and she just spoke to me. And then I started following her, and I followed her message, and the impact she does in the world is just tremendous. Positivity, authenticity as well, standing for your causes. So because of my human rights activism passion, I always follow women that are in that field who fight for causes in amazing ways, in an authentic way. So these are women.
That's great. All three very powerful. Indra, tell us, who are your 3 women to follow?
Okay. So I was thinking about so many different people that inspire me on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, that have made huge impacts. And the first person that I really thought of, I also wanted to choose people that were accessible to other people to connect with. And I have to say, the first one is Kimberly K. Scott. And she's an author, a #1 Amazon bestseller, creator, mindset advisor, and startup consultant. She's a creator economy contributor. And she's somebody that also has an incredible background on mindfulness. I mean, she has so many different qualifications on around the health and wellness area, without going into too much detail. But also she's created this amazing new Creator Classroom community recently. So she's very inspiring indeed on a daily basis. And then the next person is Isabella Niewiadomska. Now, Isabella, she's a speaker, performance and nutrition and mindset coach, and author. And she's also the winner of the Global Women's Awards. Now, Isabella and actually Kimberly have both been special guests in the Positivity Vibe Tribe spaces that we have 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. They have been in the Positivity Vibe Tribe talking about various different topics, abundance mindset, and also creator self-care and those types of subjects. And the last one is Asia Hussein. And Asia, she is the founder of the newly created Aurelis Agency. Wow, did I say that right? Forgive me, Asia.
You got it.
Mouthful, Aurelius Agency. She's also a producer and a co-host at WPKN Radio in Chicago. She is also part of our team of the Conversationalists, and she holds a lot of Twitter spaces as well. And she's very passionate about her work and her causes as well on a daily basis.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Indra. I'll just mention to everybody that actually the 4 of us are part of I don't know how many of there may be 12 or 13 of us who sort of met on Twitter and formed this community, and with the leader of the head of the account called Bunsen and Burner, which teaches science through showing us dogs, and everybody loves animals. Anyway, and Jason has been a leader in creating this conversationalist space where each Saturday one of us hosts, and we do something on AI, or we look at social media, or being an early adapter as Jennifer is and talked about. So it's on Saturdays. And it's really a privilege to do that with everyone. I just wanted to go back, if we can, to just look at some of the comments. Anyway, okay. This is from Tim Son, who I know through my social media circles. Happy anniversary! Actually, I started a live stream course with him way back before the beginning of the pandemic. And Stefan Caggiano, who's a great voice on Twitter and a great guy congratulations, Rose. I take full credit, of course. He always comes in with a pithy comment on our spaces.
Yes.
Paula Kiger, who I've worked with as a colleague on Digimentors, is in Tallahassee and joining us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jonathan B1003, engrossing show, great questions, engaging guests. Sounds good. So Dana M is watching on LinkedIn and saying congrats on 1 year. So it's really been a pleasure. And before I close, I just want to ask you, I'll start with Jennifer, do you have any, I'll ask each of you the same question, do you have any parting words or tips that you would leave people with?
Well, I kind of want to give a nod back to the fact that this is your 1 year anniversary show. And a lot of times we have this idea, this little something that won't leave us alone, that it rings true, but it's so small. It's a tiny little seed. And we're so busy. We have a lot of other things going on. I don't have time for this new thing that won't leave me alone. The reason it won't leave you alone is because it's your mission and it's your message. And you have to get it out into the world because of the impact. And what impact is it? I don't know. We have no idea. The impact will be some things that we do know because people like now are congratulating Rose. But a lot of times the impact, well, you will never know because our message goes out into the wild and it gets filtered and it gets changed and we impact someone and then they do something and they impact someone else. So whatever that thing is that's burning inside of you that won't leave you alone, go do it. Go make it happen. Share your mission and share your message like Rose has done with Women to Follow.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Very well said. What I did a story about founding Women to Follow about 6 months after I had started. And as I began to think about it, I found a poster that I had done when I was 16, a big red poster with a collage of women on one side and men on the other. And of course they were equal. So I guess I started early because I said, well, where did this come from? And as a reporter, when I was covering international trade and things, I was these are some pieces I've written for Gender Avenger. But my father, I write poetry. My father used to make an illustration for them. Let's see what else we have in this article I can share. So he would sign it Rose Horowitz and then Dad age 12 plus. And this is me at a journal where I worked at a paper in New York City that was owned by Knight Ridder. And I'm diligently taking notes, and we're doing an editorial meeting with the chairman of Archer Daniels Midland at the time. And you can see I was the only woman in the room. And here is this poster I created. So the outfits are very dated, but the idea is the same. So thank you, Stefan. So we got waylaid, but okay. Final thoughts for you, Gia. What do you want to say at the end, and what do you want to point out? What's some pointers that people should remember?
All right. There were many things that I wanted to leave the people with, but one of the things that I realized is that what kept me going is that a risk taker mindset, and just you're never too old to start something new. It's never too late to start something new. If it's your passion, just do it. Life is too short. And if we keep saying, I'm not good enough, or I don't have the facilities, or I don't have the tools to do this, you'd be surprised. Working with what you have can get you to so many different places. So work with what you have. Start today. Just do it. Believe in yourself. Have the confidence and create, just like Jennifer mentioned, creating an impact that creates a ripple through history, through the future as well. Because once we kind of undermine our powers and undermine our potentials because of social media, because a lot of issues that we go through. But just believing in ourselves and just knowing that you can create an impact, just starting it today. There are people like you who are waiting for you to speak up. and they will follow you. So just be a risk taker. Go ahead. It's never too late.
Thank you, Gia. Very wise words. Indra, what can you leave us with?
Okay, so as far as social media, I feel like it is a wonderful opportunity for everybody. And if you aren't on social media, then I really feel you're missing out on something. You're missing out on connection. You are missing out on learning. You are missing out on putting yourself out there and testing things on a daily basis and exploring. I really feel that we are very, very spoiled with our gift of social media. And it's very inspiring to see everybody, including the ladies that I'm in company here, who have started from scratch as entrepreneurs, and we have built something amazing. Who would have thought that a little girl, 5 years of age, sitting in lotus position with her mother, would be sitting here now creating movies here in Hollywood? So I hope that I inspire everybody as well. And I hope that you all go back and watch many of Rose's shows that are full of so many inspirational women. Truly, it has been an amazing time to be here. I really just send everybody out with love, light, and blessings from the Positivity Vibe Tribe.
Thank you so much, Indra. Wonderful. Really, it's great. I will always remember you as a child in lotus position, I think. So thank you, everyone. I want to really thank my producer again. And I appreciate that he came on. Thank you, Neil, for that great video from Digimentors. I would like to, if you could wait for me backstage, I'm going to talk about some upcoming events. So soon. So this Sunday, there'll be a New York Times read along. And I am waiting to see who is going to be. Yes. That's a hard name. Sounds Greek, but Alia Papageorgiou from Eurocentric, who is president of the Press Club of Brussels, Europe, and she'll be talking with Sri Srinivasan. And it's really a great show to start your Sundays with, because there's a guest and they talk with a guest, and like just as you would on your Sunday, table, sit around and you look at the New York Times and what's in there. And then my friend Stefan is producing a show this week, live author Q&A with journalist Maren McKenna and Rachel Gross, who is an award-winning science journalist and author of Vagina Obscura. So thank you so much, everyone, for being with me, for being viewers, and thank you to Jennifer, Gia, and Indra for being my guests today to celebrate with me. And I wish you well and a great evening. Thank you.